Do you know what I always think about with Quicksilver? In the Red Letter,
no,
in the Red Letter Media review of Avengers Age of Ultron, you know Jack, the guy who's like bold, in Red Letter Media. Yeah. So a lot of people criticize him for trying too hard. I don't know. I might just have to even like insert it into the thing. Like, we never have videos on here, but I might have to insert it because it's the best thing ever. He does this terrible joke where Mike calls the Silver Surfer the Silver Streaker, and for some reason Jack does this little dance, and it's just the most awkward, cringy thing ever.
I gotcha. Ooh, I got a Brazilian.
I live for it. I live for people embarrassing themselves on the internet, Luke.
Yeah. If there's one thing the internet hates, it's people trying.
I also live for people who are part of a larger project being told that they're the worst part of that project. Like when people go, like, people just comment like, I hate Rich, I hate Jay.
Nobody hates
I hate
Rich
Luke.
Or Jay, though.
No. So I remember people used to hate Rich. I feel like when Rich was like when Rich started entering the Half in the Bags, people hated Rich. People were like, that guy's got a really annoying laugh. And then he became a meme. That's the trick.
Yeah.
Became a meme.
Back up, chump, you know Biggie Smalls rips it quick and kicks it quick. You know how black niggas get with the hoods, fatigues, with the boots, with trees. Flipping trees, making crazy cheese. Hitting buckshots at niggas that open spots on the avenue. Take my loot and I'm bagging. Pimping hoes that drive Volvos and rodeos. Flash the roll, make a wet in they pantyhose. Damn, a nigga style is unorthodox, grip the Glock. When I walk down the crowded block, just in case a nigga wanna act out, I just black out and blow his motherfucking back out. That's a real nigga for you.
Hello and welcome to Select and Reflect, the movie review podcast where we look at films that have come out relatively recently at the cinema and see if they still hold up upon a second viewing. As always, I am Michael and I'm joined by my co-host, Luke. And Luke, why don't you tell us a thing or two about Avengers Age of Ultron?
Wait, I thought we were doing the Avengers 2012 first.
Yeah, I don't know. I was reading. There we go. I'll get that up. I should say, by the way, just because I didn't do it, this is, of course, the conclusion to our Marvel spectacular, where we've been looking at all the Marvel films in the run-up to Avengers Infinity War. I was going to do the Disney's Marvel's Avengers 3 Infinity War Part 1 joke. That's just so old now, isn't it?
I know. I feel like I've really got to know these characters throughout the last few weeks.
Yeah,
really,
I do.
Really got that.
So eye-opening watching these films. But yeah, okay, so what I really mean is we're going to be looking at both films. We're going to be looking at Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron. And Luke, why don't you tell us a bit about the Avengers to start us off? So,
Marvel's The Avengers, or simply The Avengers, is a 2012 American superhero film based on the Marvel comic superhero team of the same name. Directed by Josh Whedon. Stars Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Hemsworth, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Tom Hiddleston, Clark Gregg, Kobe Smulders, Stellan Skarsgård, and Samuel L. Jackson. Was released on May the 4th, 2012 in the United States. Yeah, right. And has a budget of, do you want to have a guess?
Actually, I think I do know this is just an aside, but I almost feel like I know the box office for this one, but it might be I know the box office for the second one. The budget, I'm going to guess. See, this was before the famous Robert Downey... No, actually, was this? I was going to say this is before the famous Robert Downey Jr. £50 million fee. Oh, sorry, $50 million fee.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was that or if this was before that, so I'm just going to go for, tentatively, $200 million budget.
Close. $220 million.
Happy with that.
And how much did it make at the box office?
Actually, yeah, I think... Okay, so I know over $1 billion. I think this probably made similar to Captain America Civil War, but... See, okay, you know what? I'm going to guess what I think it's either this or Avengers Ultron made about this much. So, I'm going to guess one of these made... So, I think $1.35 billion.
$1.5 billion. $1.519 billion. So, yeah, $1.5 billion. A lot of money.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm kind of okay with that. I do think that I better be right about Avengers Age of Ultron.
Well, we'll find out. So, you got to ask me if I like it. Yeah.
I got to, exactly.
Yeah.
Luke, did you like this film?
I did like this film, Michael. I really did like this film. How about you?
I didn't really like this film, but I didn't like this film.
Okay, I kind of get what you're saying.
So if I were to say, I wouldn't say I really didn't like it, but I would say I really did like it.
Okay, fair enough. So we've got nitpicks to go through first. How many do you have?
I have. You know what? I got it up, but I haven't actually clicked on it. I have 5.
Oh my god, 5. Wow, I've only got 2. I mean, I'm interested to see what you've got, but yeah, I'll just do mine first then.
Oh yeah, one of these isn't really a nitpick actually. But
Alright,
yeah.
okay. So my first one, Agent Coulson collects Captain America trading cards. He's got a whole set of them. And I'm just wondering, what are Captain America trading cards? Like, because there's only one Captain America. It's not like you got Pokemon, there's like 500 different Pokemon, and do you remember those like footballer trading cards back in Friday? Yeah, Match Attacks, that was it. Yeah, like there's loads of footballers and stuff, but there's only like
one Captain America.
One Captain America. So how many trading cards can you get? Like 5?
Have you ever seen that episode of The Simpsons where they have Krusty trading cards, and it's just him in one of them's Krusty poses for trading card.
No.
I guess they should have a Captain America poses for trading card.
How does that even work, these trading cards?
Well, see, I always think of, are you familiar with the classic card game Top Trumps?
Yeah.
Where you pick your different category and you've got to see if you beat the other person. I'm going to guess they go on different things about, like for example, how big do his biceps look in each picture? Sometimes he's grabbing onto a helicopter and bicep curling a helicopter, and that makes his muscles look really big. So that's like a 10. And then other times he's got a tiny CGI body.
Yeah. Seems like, yeah, and he's jumping on grenades. So that was one of them. Next one. When Loki is in Stuttgart, telling all the Germans to kneel before him, giving his speech. Obviously he's talking in English.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, how do these Germans know what he's talking about? Because, I imagine a lot of Germans, particularly the ones who went to that, whatever they were at, like this opera thing or whatever, they were probably, they're probably well educated, but I can't imagine any of them knowing really what he's saying unless they speak fluent English. It's going to be quite difficult. Imagine if just some, god came down, and we were, in a park or whatever, and started speaking, French or German to us. We wouldn't know what the hell he's, saying, that's the thing.
Yeah, but we're not part of the continental European master race where everyone speaks 20 different languages. We're part of we don't need to learn their languages, we just need bloody sovereignty. That's what would happen if Loki came out what about our bloody sovereignty, you dickhead?
Speak English! Do you know which country you're in? So those are my 2 nitpicks. Go on, what are yours?
Okay, so I'm going to start with my one that isn't really a nitpick, but I just kind of noticed it. There's a bit where Iron Man, so there's this giant, I guess we're going to say it's a fish monster, and we have to say it's a fish monster for the analogy to work. Tony Stark says, "Have you ever heard of the story of Jonah?" And then Jarvis says that I wouldn't consider him a role model.
This is where your Bible knowledge comes into play, doesn't it?
The funny thing is that Jonah is actually a complete arsehole in the Bible. It's a little known fact. Everyone knows about Jonah that he was swallowed by a fish. It's often said he was swallowed by a whale, but it actually says large fish in the Bible. It's a technicality for you. But the reason he was swallowed by a fish is because, basically, it's a really short book. God says to Jonah, preach to the Ninevites. And Jonah is basically racist against Ninevites. He's like, I hate Ninevites, they're stupid, they're dumb, I don't want to go preach to them. So he goes on a boat and sails to, I think, Spain. And while he's in the Mediterranean, God hits the boat with a storm, and then the whole getting swallowed by a fish, and then it gets spat out in Israel. And then he ends up going to Nineveh reluctantly. But basically the twist at the end is that there isn't really a twist. He basically just ends the book as an arsehole, still hating the Ninevites. So basically what I'm saying is that I noticed that and I thought, Jonah isn't a role model.
Well, that's great, Michael.
That's not my Oh, and the other thing, actually, I'll add this one because I realized this afterwards, and I thought I might as well say it. Audi.
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I said it enough, so I might as well just keep saying
Okay,
it.
Tony Stark likes his Audis. What do you want to do?
Now, okay, these are my actual ones. She says to Bruce Banner that he'll
You mean
want
Black
to avoid.
Widow?
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I wrote she. She says to Bruce Banner that he'll want to avoid another incident. But she's basically asking him to join a superhero team, and it's kind of like a bit like weird, and basically the way that she tells him to go to join their superhero team where they're fighting these massive baddies is by telling him that the one thing he doesn't want to do is the thing that makes him the most like a superhero. She's like, you know, you don't want to become the Hulk again, so join our superhero team.
Yeah, okay,
And
I get
guess,
that.
like, I mean, like, the thing is, obviously, they do say that they're not using him for his Hulk abilities; they're using him for his science abilities. But
Yeah.
I was thinking, you know, like, to be honest, if you're the Hulk and you're there and you're like, oh, there's going to be a massive army invading, I'm sure I won't be turning into the Hulk at any point during this. It's kind of like, it's like the Avengers are a guy and Bruce Banner's a girl, and they're saying that they like Bruce Banner for his personality. Like, oh, I don't want you to do the hulking out thing. No, I don't want you to become a super powerful monster who can kill all our enemies. I just need you because you're so smart, Bruce.
Yeah, but I think Bruce knows this, and he's just like, yeah, whatever. I'll go along for the ride.
Saying he's asking for it.
Yeah.
And the second one, there's a bit where Black Widow literally gets like hit by the Hulk, like swatted out the way, and then smashes into a kind of, I can't think what the word is for it, like a canister, a big metal canister, and I'm pretty sure she makes a dent in it. And I think, like, I'm going to be charitable and say that maybe that shouldn't have killed her because, you know, you can be knocked around a bit. But it definitely, like, she pretty much just gets up, and I think that would, I mean, it's the Hulk.
Yeah.
And it's a metal canister.
She should be in hospital for several days.
Yeah.
And maybe even weeks after that.
And speaking of people being injured, Thor gets knocked down to Earth in this massive capsule, and then he jumps out of it, which is his plan to not get killed. But I'm kind of thinking, like, why is he less likely to die hitting the ground just normally? Like, pretty much all that happens is he jumps out of the capsule, but he's still hitting the ground at the same rate. And I don't.
There's just no point in him jumping out.
Yeah,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
yeah,
finally,
fine.
and this one's probably the biggest one. Tony Stark is directing a missile to the wormhole. He has it pointed up directly, you know, into the sky towards. I guess it's probably not actually a wormhole. Actually, it's a Tetrock portal.
Okay, Michael.
But the thing, yeah, he's pointing it up, and it's got, you know, it's being propelled by a rocket. So if he lets go, where is that rocket gonna make it go? It's gonna make it go up. Like, he's carrying it into the thing, but it's clearly pointing that way anyway. I just think, why didn't he just let go of the missile and just let it go up itself?
He just wanted to make sure.
I mean, like, the thing is, even if you say you want to make sure, he could have literally stopped the second he went in. Like, he unnecessarily went up quite high into the sky.
Because he's an attention seeker and he wanted to be the hero. Okay.
I think that's probably the best theory.
Yeah.
Anyways, those are my nitpicks.
Okay.
We've done the nitpicks really quickly, and I don't know if we have that much to say about this film.
Let's start with
plot.
Yeah, let's talk about that. So, the plot. So Loki encounters the Other, the leader of an extraterrestrial race known as the Chitauri, in exchange for retrieving the Tesseract, a powerful energy source of unknown potential. The Other promises Loki an army which can subjugate Earth. And then Loki goes and takes the Tesseract, shit goes down, and in response to that, Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, reactivates the Avengers Initiative, and Romanoff and recruits people, and so does Agent Coulson. Everyone gets recruited. They go on this shield-flying aircraft carrier called the Helicarrier, or maybe that's just what it is. Loki.
I refuse to believe you say that. That's what it is. I refuse to believe that thing exists in real life.
Well, there's a link to it. There's a link to it on Wikipedia.
Helicarrier?
The Helicarrier is a fictional flying aircraft character.
Okay, there you go.
Carrying an American comic book.
Like,
Marvel comics.
I was going to be charitable, but I was thinking when I saw, like, it's basically just 4 propellers are able to lift this giant, like it is, I mean, it's a big aircraft carrier too, like probably bigger than the average aircraft carrier, out of the ocean into the air.
Is it even possible?
But I'm assuming, like, obviously with enough power, you can get anything into the sky, but, like, basically, they had blades that were about the size of helicopter blades, and I would assume that a helicopter blade generates about as much force to elevate a helicopter.
The Tesseract. So Loki needs to go to Stuttgart for some reason. I can't remember why. Oh, to get some like materials to help him unlock the portal to let the Chitauri through. In Stuttgart, he gets captured by Iron Man and Captain America, and he's imprisoned in the heli character. The Avengers become divided, both over how to approach Loki and the revelation that S.H.I.E.L.D. plans to harness the Tesseract to develop weapons as a deterrent against hostile extraterrestrials. And so basically, as the group argues, Hawkeye, who is possessed by Loki, attacks the heli character, and the Avengers spring into action. Loki escapes, and then what happens after that is Nick Fury uses those trading cards we mentioned before to try and rally the troops, and he succeeds as Stark and Rogers and all the rest of the gang go to New York to try and defeat Loki. So anyway, the Chitauri come into New York City, and there's this massive battle which takes about half an hour between all the Avengers and the Chitauri, and they are eventually defeated. As you said before, Tony Stark uses the nuclear missile to destroy the mothership of the Chitauri fleet. Thor returns Loki and the Tesseract to Asgard, while Fury expresses confidence that the Avengers will return if and when they are needed. And then there's a Thanos in the post-credit scene. There you go.
Good.
Done.
Thanos. Can't wait to see Thanos.
We're finally going to get to see him after 6 years.
Yeah, I was waiting so excitedly. I just couldn't wait to see Thanos. So the plot. One of my first thing I noticed about the plot is I was thinking it was too quick to get going. Like, I'm pretty sure it's the first scene, and they have this action scene. And obviously, the thing is, I think a general rule of thumb is, if you're going to have an action scene at the beginning, it should only be kind of tangentially related to your plot. Like, I mean, it can be completely unrelated, which is the classic Indiana Jones formula. You just have, and I think that's also quite common with James Bond. You have your first action scene, it just sets up your character and how cool he is, and then the plot starts. But alternatively, you can, set up some characters. In this case, it's literally, important stuff happens in that first action scene. Stuff that basically the entire plot, like everything about the plot, pretty much gets set into motion with that action scene. And I think it was wrong. I don't think that, even though they've established all these characters before, I think that the film should have started off kind of slower. Well, we often say on this podcast that we like slower paced films.
Okay, what else would you like them to do?
See, I guess I'm going to have to come back to my recurring and enduring criticism of the entire Marvel cinematic universe, which is that there's not that much focus, with the exception kind of Tony Stark, there's not that much focus on the day-to-day life of the Avengers. But actually, I might be confusing films. I was about to mention a scene from Age of Ultron. The scene where I'm just going to have to bring this up, but the scene where they're at the party in Age of Ultron. Like, that's a good scene. That's like fun. Obviously, though, you couldn't do that with this because the characters are different. But I would think maybe have something like you could have a scene where, say, for example, where the Hulk is caught down, and then you wouldn't have. Obviously, that would mean you wouldn't have the scene later on where Romanoff goes to track him down. You could have, for example, the Hulk gets captured, or maybe, for example, one of the other characters. I guess it could only really be the Hulk, because the Hulk's the only one who's kind of gone rogue. But you have, for example, the Hulk gets captured, and then you're like, oh no, the Hulk's been captured, and then later on, it's revealed that the Hulk was captured because they want to bring him in for this Avengers initiative. You could have something where there's something that at first feels kind of just like, oh, you don't really know what's happening, and then it's revealed later. The problem with this is it was literally, there was exposition going on during the fight. It was like, look, he shows up and like, this is the Tetrarch. What's it called?
The Tesseract.
This is the Tesseract, and I've got to use it, and then I'm going to turn you into a zombie, and blah blah blah. And obviously, like I don't know, like it's not as if I couldn't pay attention to it, but I kind of resented that the film was making me pay attention to it. I thought it was too early.
No, that's fine. I like that. I like the quick start. I thought it was a great start. Immediately everything's explained with what's happening. The exposition is fine, and Loki steals the Tesseract, and we're off. It's like, oh, here we go. Here's the start of this movie, which obviously I imagine got a lot of hype, and gets right into it. I'm totally fine with that. I think the start was great.
Luke, Mister, we agree too much on this podcast. I guess this is an annoying one because it's quite hard to argue objectively about. I think that I would like to see a bit of a. I guess what I'm thinking of is like the calm before the storm. So, not everything happening at once. I can kind of see your logic of things wanting to get started right away, although I actually don't know that I've ever wanted that to happen. Genuinely.
I don't know what the point of the calm before the storm would be though. You got to give me a point. Why are we starting off slow?
Okay.
Why?
I want to reacquaint myself with the universe and the characters a bit. And the other thing is I want to know the basics of kind of what's going to happen or the significance of what's going to happen before it happens. Because I guess my thing would be this: I'm watching this action scene, and I'm having to kind of work out why it matters as it goes along.
It's pretty obvious why it matters.
No,
it's because it's the Tesseract. It's this very powerful thing that Loki is gonna steal.
No, I didn't care. I was like, what's this guy doing? Who's this Thomas Hiddleston guy? Is his name Tom Hiddleston?
Well,
Okay.
yeah, Tom Hiddleston. You know who he is because you've seen Thor, right?
Yeah, to be honest, I do think I should admit this. Something I was thinking about is I don't know about you, but I have only rewatched the Marvel films we've been reviewing, so I didn't have much of the. Yeah.
Oh yes.
So I mean, maybe I will admit this. Maybe my opinion on this film would have been slightly different if I would have watched. Let's see if I can get this in order: Iron Man, Thor, Iron Man 2, and then Captain America? Are those all the films that came before the Avengers? Iron Man.
Yeah, Iron Man, Incredible Hulk.
Incredible Hulk is
Iron Man 2, yeah, Captain America, and Thor. Yes.
Yeah, if I would have watched all those films in advance, maybe my opinion would have been different on this. Part of it was I was kind of in my mind thinking because it would have been a year since anyone had watched Captain America. And Thor was the third film. Okay, all right. Anyway, we will move on from that, but maybe we can argue a bit more about.
Okay, so all I wanted to say was I think about the plot overall. I think it was really just a solid plot. It didn't take any risks. The villain wants to enslave Earth. Basic stuff. It was sewn up nicely at the end. I think it was very well executed, and I think it was pretty safe, standard stuff, which I think works because in this movie you didn't want to ruffle any feathers. It's like the Avengers. It's a new concept. We've had superhero movies before, but like 6 superheroes in the same movie. It'd be something pretty difficult to pull off successfully, and the way to do that is just to keep it safe. Don't make any weird choices. And that's what they did. So I think the overall plot is good.
I agree. It's definitely a good plot. Or I guess I think what you said about it being a solid plot is true. It is. I guess you would probably say standard would also be.
Yeah, I said standard.
Did you say standard? Yeah. Well, yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
that is what you so say then, isn't it?
It is simple, and after watching a lot of superhero movies recently where plots aren't that simple. They have to do a lot of stuff, and it's sometimes kind of hard to, appreciate everything that's going on. This one, that wasn't the case. It was, like I said, simple, and I do appreciate its simplicity. And that's why I think it was a success.
There was one thing about it, and I don't know, I'm not necessarily bringing this up as a criticism, but more just a counterpoint that made it less simple, I guess, which was the complex world building. And again, that comes down to the problem with, well, not the problem. this film is intensely reliant on, I think, almost entirely knowledge of Thor. Like, almost, I don't really think most of the other pre-Avengers first phase films matter that much apart from Thor.
Because Loki's the villain.
Exactly.
That's why.
And also it's got all this kind of stuff with other worlds and Odin, and
I don't know where the Tesseract comes in to play. I can't remember if it was in any of the previous. Oh, I think it was in Captain America. That was it. The Tesseract was in Captain America: The First Avenger, and it was buried under the ice. And they got out Captain America and they got out the Tesseract at the same time. I believe that is the case. So yeah, that's that right there is another Marvel movie which I think is important.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I mean, obviously, every film has its role, but I was thinking,
apart from the Incredible Hulk,
the Incredible Hulk is so irrelevant. The thing is, actually, one of the things I was kind of surprised by is that they do actually reference the Incredible Hulk in this film, but very basically, Bruce Banner says, I think he says, last time I was in Harlem. I think it was Harlem. Last time I was in Harlem, I tore it to the ground or something, and they were like trashed it basically. And I think that the Incredible Hulk he's referring to. Do you remember the Incredible Hulk at all?
I remember it vaguely.
So,
I know there was, what's he called? Roth. What's his first name?
There's Tim Roth.
Tim Roth. Yeah, Tim Roth. He was the villain.
Was he the bad guy?
Well,
really?
Yeah, he was the bad guy. Yeah, he wanted to. He was a special agent who wanted to take down the Hulk, and he wanted to become a monster himself.
You really saved me from admitting there, because I was just about to say who it was played by and get it wrong. And thankfully, you jumped in there, and now no one will know that I got the actor who played. Yeah. Anyway, I think the big fight scene at the end. By the way, the villain in the Hulk, I happen to know, is called the Abomination. That's his name.
Yeah, it is.
That's what the villain's called. But yeah, I assume that was in Harlem. But yeah.
Okay.
So apart from that, it wasn't important enough to justify you letting me speak, Luke.
Okay. Well, I'll go then. So I think obviously the.
You go. Bye, Luke.
So we obviously we talked about the beginning and all the gathering of the Avengers. Makes sense. And then the Loki's plan seems a bit weird, that he wants to get captured and then somehow he's going to escape. Like, that seems awfully risky. I mean, it could end up going pretty badly if the attack on the helicarrier doesn't work out and he's just left captured on the helicarrier. And obviously the Avengers, they fight and all, which I think it can get old after a while, seeing like all the Avengers argue with each other, but for the first time, all them arguing, all them showing their different personalities and quirks and all that. I think that was good. The contrast between Tony Stark and Captain America's personality, I think it was nice to see, and that's good. That's the kind of stuff you were, I guess, hoping to see in this Avengers movie. These two Marvel characters interact, and yeah, it was fun. And then obviously
that was some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah.
The verbal sparring and the character moments in the middle.
Yeah. Like I said,
I think I have a general anti-action bent when you, which actually, what the funny thing is, I was thinking about this. Sorry, I just have to interrupt. In first year, this might have been the first film that we ever talked about, because, like, as I've said before, we started this podcast, so of course we talked about films a lot. And I think one of the first ones we ever talked about was this film, because we were playing, I think, some kind of one-touch football against the wall of our university dorm in first year, and we were talking about, I think, Avengers Age of Ultron was just coming out, because it was Avengers Age of Ultron at the end of 2014.
No, it was in May 2015.
Oh, that's great. Okay, yeah, it would have definitely just come out then.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we were probably in May 2015, and we were talking about the films, and I remember I said at that moment that my favourite bit of Avengers was the middle, and I didn't much care about the action, and you were like, "Duh, I'm a Marvel fanboy, I clapped when they started punching each other." I think that's what you said, Luke, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, that sounds like me, so yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry, I'll let you, I interrupted you to agree with you.
Yeah, so, yeah, like you said, I enjoyed that bit. And then we move on to the final part of the movie, the third act, which is the fight in New York, which goes on for a long time. And I think we should discuss this because obviously it's the main part of the movie. It's all building up to this massive battle in New York. And so, yeah, what are your thoughts on the final fight?
I did write something down which I almost thought could be a nitpick, and it's kind of a complaint. So this, first of all, it's a giant CGI army, which I think I'm mad. Like I mean, I spoke about it with Thor Ragnarok. It's kind of a bit like it's another moment of it almost seems like it's not any effort for them to kill the people. It's just effort for them to kill all of them.
Yes, but Michael,
and it's kind of just like it's all.
But may I just jump in?
Yes.
And say about the giant CGI army. Obviously, it's a superhero movie cliche that they have to battle this massive disposable army. But I think it was good because I don't think before this there was like this massive disposable army that like in a superhero movie. Of course, it's been repeated several times since then, even in DC movies. But yeah, I think that's fine for this one because I think it was the first time that something like this had happened. And it makes sense because obviously you got a lot of characters in this Avenger movie, so they all have to do something. So why don't you give them a load of like aliens to battle? So yeah, although it's watching them defeat a massive CGI army for like the fifth time perhaps in this Marvel Cinematic Universe may get boring. I think that doing it for the first time is okay, and it works with the fact that you got a lot of characters. You got to get all these characters to do stuff as well.
I agree with you that it worked. It made more sense with this being the first film, where you kind of because there was like a sense in that it was like you want to get to know the characters, you want to see the characters working together, and therefore, one of the ways you can do that is by having it be quite kind of bright and easy, and like, oh, we're having fun. And I do agree with that. I think it was made better by the fact this was the first time that we've seen the characters working together. But actually, my real criticism is this. This army was not a world-conquering army because Hawkeye and Black Widow.
that's when you know it's not a world-conquering army, when Hawkeye and Black Widow can kill them.
Yeah, they had. I mean, Black Widow had guns and Hawkeye had a bow and arrow. And I know we've discussed before whether a bow and arrow is superior to or worse than a gun, but I think we can agree that it's roughly comparable to a gun. And do you know who else has guns, Luke? Like 100. I mean, like 1 million reserve soldiers in the United States Army, and there were not. Like the thing is, one of the things that I was thinking is, are these like shock troops that are clearing the way for a larger army? But they never established that, and obviously, basically, what I was thinking the whole time is I was thinking, yes, okay, these 6. I don't know how many people it is. However many heroes it is, how many members of the Avengers were there in this that were fighting? Like 6 or 7 or 8? And yes, it was quite a bit of effort for them, but it probably would have been comparable effort for, say, 6,000 to 8,000 soldiers. There is a pretty obvious, sense in which they are comparable in their capacity to kill this giant army. So, yeah, at no point was I thinking, oh no, if the Avengers don't defeat this massive army, then the world's going to get conquered. Because I was thinking, okay, basically the first time they come up against an actual army with guns, these people who can't even take a guy with a fucking bow and arrow. Yeah, I don't know. Like I say, I mean, that's just, it wasn't a movie destroying.
Yeah, that's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, if they actually went up against the actual army, like I'd say all of the US Army, they'd be comparable to them. Like, it wouldn't be easy for Loki to conquer the world with this army. They weren't that great. Like even their massive fish monster things, like you could just send a missile inside their mouth and it blows them all up.
Yeah, and a nuke destroyed the entire ship, which is human technology. I do think
plenty of nukes.
Exactly. Yeah, we can. I mean, and the whole thing was like literally, they were saying the main threat, I guess, was that they were talking about potentially nuking New York to stop the threat. But first of all, I was wondering, like, hold a minute, why would they nuke New York to stop the threat when it's not like it's like nuking Iraq to stop ISIS? Like, I don't know, ISIS is bad.
And that seemed a little premature as well. It's like they've been at it for like an hour, and I don't know why you feel the need to nuke New York City. Like, just send in the army, like evacuate the island of Manhattan, obviously. and just try and contain it. Like you've got the nuke in your back pocket. You don't need to do it right away.
Yeah. Also, I mean, canonically now, I don't know who it was who made this order, but someone high up in the US military or whatever tried to nuke New York City, and the only reason they didn't succeed, like, that's the funny thing. I mean, the whole kind of enduring thing is like, the Avengers, they save the world, or they cause collateral damage, but they save the world. Probably the thing they've done that has saved the most lives is stop the government of the United States from mass murdering like 20 million. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the range of the nuke would be. If it was only Manhattan, then I guess that's just a couple of million.
Well, it'd probably be more than a couple of million, I'm guessing.
I don't know.
I'm going to say like 5.
There we go. I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure what kind of nuke it was. Obviously, New York City is, I think, about 8 million, and the wider New York metropolitan area is like quite a bit more than that. But apparently, they were only going to bomb Manhattan, and it would have respectfully not bombed Queens or anything like that, where Spider-Man lives.
Yeah. What about Peter Parker? What's he doing when all this goes on?
I assume that I don't know how much these films correlate with the real world timeline.
I think they tried to.
Okay, so in Peter Parker is like Spider-Man in 2016, and this would have been 4 years before that. So he would have been real little kid. Maybe it's one of those things where it's like, maybe there's a fan theory somewhere that one of the kids in the background is Peter Parker. And they're like, look, see, he's got brown hair, just like Peter Parker.
Just like Peter Parker. Okay. So we've talked about the final fight scene. You've done it. You have pointed out some holes in the fact that the Chitauri weren't actually that great a threat to Earth, and the fact that they really... Oh my God, Dylan just celebrated.
Oh, I heard that.
Good.
Yeah.
And the fact that the Chitauri basically, they weren't a great threat, and the the US government kind of reacted really quickly there and tried to almost nuke Manhattan without really taking a step back. But overall, like I said before, I thought the last fight scene overall, it was well executed, had a lot of good moments. Obviously, when the Avengers are, landing, they're in a circle, and the camera pans around all of them. That's a kind of an iconic shot. And then, you had some good teamwork, good, Captain America saving lives. It went on for quite a while, but I think, I don't think there was a minute which was wasted. So that's why I say, that's why I say it was well executed. And I like that it was set in New York. The Avengers movie, it's been building up to this. The first time something like this has been tried, and obviously it would make sense to set the final battle in New York. Where all these superheroes are meant to live, because obviously that's where Stan Lee set all of these superheroes up to live in New York. So there you go. That is what I think of the final fight scene.
Yes, I broadly agree. I can't. Yeah, I don't think there was anything wrong with the final fight scene. Everything that I could say I didn't like about it can be attributed to my like I say, my general criticism of the film, which is that I struggled to care about this film, and like that's the thing. Like I can so nothing about this film was poorly executed. I mean, maybe the thing is, like, I would have changed the pacing, and I understand you wouldn't have. I would have changed the pacing at the beginning. Nothing about the second and third act, in my opinion, was bad at all. Apart from maybe a few like nitpicks, like I don't know, I mean, the thing with the CGI army, they could have just made it so it was like I say, these are shock troops coming in, and they're preparing the way for a larger army. That would have that could have literally solved the entire problem. And then it's like, the Avengers have got to stop the. Also, what I wish they would have had? I wish they would have had like some more kind of humanoid bosses, because they did kind of have bosses, like boss battles in the form of the giant slug monsters. But I wish they had something a bit more kind of human looking, because then I think it would have been kind of cool. That was probably a very personal thing. But like I say, nothing wrong with how it was executed. But there was a part of me that was like, I don't know how much I care, and I was kind of watching. I was like, and the thing is, like, when I watch at the end of Spider-Man 2 and Dr. Octopus is about to destroy New York with a fusion reactor and Peter Parker's got to stop him. I'm like, come on, Peter Parker, stop him. But that's because I feel like I know New York in Spider-Man 2. I didn't feel like... I think this film does a very good job at a lot of things, but to me... sorry, I'm kind of sounding like I'm wrapping up when I actually do have a few more things to say, but yeah. To me, like, that's the problem. Yeah, so basically what I'm saying here is I do agree with you that it was well executed. I don't know if it was executed, if it had as much weight for me as I would have liked, but...
Yeah.
The other thing is, Luke, the humour, of course, Marvel sets itself apart from other superhero films. Well, not really, actually, because other superhero films were doing this, but I guess it set itself apart from the kind of Nolan Batman darkness that was being inspired at the time by giving us this humorous stuff. I will say up front that I enjoyed the humour, but I did kind of think like that pretty much every character is just one joke. Like Captain America is from the past, so like literally almost every single joke about Captain America is the fact that he's from the past. And then Thor has like this kind of mythical demeanor, and like there's like, oh, he's Shakespeare, and you know, and then Tony Stark, the joke with him is that he's arrogant. So every single joke with Tony Stark is like, oh, look at how arrogant he is, look at how cocky he is. So I did like the humor, but there's kind of a moment of, it's very hard not to watch this and think, this is going to get old fast. Like it works, like you're watching it in this film and you're like, I can enjoy this, but at the same time you can think to yourself, and I don't know, maybe this is something that I was kind of, I think I thought this the first time I watched it. I don't think this is even a hindsight thing, although I think hindsight has made this even more clear. But I'm pretty sure even when I was watching this for the first time I was thinking, I don't think I'm going to be loving this by the time they do the next Avengers film. And we'll get into that later, won't we?
Yeah, we will. So yeah, that's a good point. I think the humour's fine in this movie. I don't think it's too humorous. Obviously, it's quite light-hearted. But certainly, if you watch the Marvel movies down the road, the jokes, there are a lot more jokes. The jokes in this aren't that much, which, there's not that many of them, which I appreciate. So, you wanted to discuss the character.
Well, yeah, I do want to talk about,
characters.
First of all, I guess, the characters. The interesting thing about this is that you can't really discuss the character. There's not really much point discussing the characters themselves because they all have their own kind of standalone films, pretty much. But one thing I do want to talk about is kind of the way that these characters. These characters are quite inexpendable, and I think that's sort of a inherent problem of this film. And it's one of those things where usually the way you get around that is you have the characters have someone who they're invested in. So Spider-Man is invested in Mary Jane, Spider-Man's invested in like his friends and things like that, and you want to see him protect them. In this film, I think the problem is that you have so many characters that you can't really have there's kind of a Goldilocks zone in a lot of family kind of action adventure films. Because you can't have, if you have a character who's too important, then you know they're not going to die, so you don't feel any tension. If you have a character who's too unimportant, then they become, absolutely expendable. It doesn't even matter if they go away. So what you need to have characters in this Goldilocks zone, where it's like, you care enough about them to be upset if they die, but you also know that they're not so important to the story that they can't die. And I think you need to have a lot of characters with very personal connections to your main characters in order to have a fully fleshed out Goldilocks zone. And the problem with this film is I kind of almost felt like insulted when they killed off this guy with the playing cards. Like they tried to make it sentimental, but it's kind of like, I don't care about that guy. I mean, like I
they didn't even really kill him off.
Yeah, they didn't even really kill him off because he comes back.
He does. Yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, like, I don't know, like, I'm allowing for me to put myself in the mind of somebody who doesn't. But yeah, like, it's so, like, it's kind of, excuse my language, but it's taking the Michael, Luke.
Wow. You went there. Yeah, I get what you mean. The characters, they're not that important. Sorry, they do need to be in that Goldilocks zone. Some of these characters just aren't that important, like Black Widow and Hawkeye.
Yeah, like Hawkeye, I've always thought Hawkeye should die. Like, I mean, I just gotta... he's kind of like, Hawkeye's like... Do you remember, who's the guy? In Suicide Squad, Slipknot, the guy who can climb anything. So in Suicide Squad,
Yeah.
there's a guy, and literally he just exists to die, and it's like that's, I don't know, yeah, it annoys me because it's kind of, and yeah, the thing is, I kind of wonder like who would I kill? I genuinely think that if they were going to kill off anyone, it should be Iron Man, just because why not? But the thing is, like, they wouldn't do it because Iron Man's really important. Like, that's the problem. Like, it is a case of it's what you need. Like, I'm not really saying that they should kill the major characters the same way I'm not saying that they should kill Spider-Man in Spider-Man. Like, maybe they can kill Hawkeye, maybe they can kill Black Widow, maybe they can kill Falcon, but they really can't kill Captain America, the Hulk, Iron Man, Thor. They can't kill those guys. But so that's why what you need to have more characters who they can kill, who they put enough effort in for you to care about them. And to me, yeah, the film would have benefited from that a bit. Like, the problem with this film is it's kind of like every single person who's important to any of the Avengers seems to be kind of removed from the film. Like, I'm pretty sure, I might be confusing this with Age of Ultron, but I'm pretty sure, actually no, I can't be confusing it with Age of Ultron, because, wait, hold on a minute. Thor is in Age of Ultron, isn't he? Yeah, he is.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
I was confusing Age of Ultron with Civil War. I think in one of the films they like Thor mentions Natalie Portman. He says, "Where's Natalie Portman, the actress who plays my love interest?" And they're like, "We've got to a secure location. Don't worry about it. Don't worry that something bad could happen, audience." Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a general criticism.
Okay, so I just wanted to say some stuff about the characters.
I will let you do that.
Comparing them to other Marvel films, I found them like quite one-dimensional, and obviously, they haven't been in very many movies. They haven't had a lot of chance to develop, but it's the contrast between Thor in this movie and Thor Ragnarok is, there's quite a difference.
Yeah,
and there's just been so much evolution on that end, and also the dialogue as well. There's been a lot of evolution in dialogue. The dialogue here is much simpler. A lot more straight to the point, and yeah, that's just what I want to say about the characters.
Yeah,
that it's they're one-dimensional, but that's to be expected, I guess.
You know what, Luke? It's good because you just mentioned Thor Ragnarok, and that puts us in a perfect position to wrap up for reasons that will be revealed later. So let's wrap up. Do you want to go? Do you want to wrap up first?
Yeah. So I'll wrap up. Like I said, it's a really solid movie. I think it was quite. The task was quite hard to do, to get all these characters, equal screen time and for it to all work. It had a lot of hype, and I think it delivered really well. Knocked it out of the park, as they say. And yeah, the movie at the end, it was like a proper superhero ending. Like, it left me feeling good. Like, they saved the day. The Avengers, they weren't battling like this alien monster in a faraway land or whatever. Like, They saved the people of New York, and it was a proper hero's ending. Like that girl on the news said, like, Captain America saved my life. I just want to say thank you. And that's what it's all about, Michael. These guys are superheroes, not just super people. So that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, I think it was a really good success, and not just because of the fan stuff which was included, which is I think a lot of people are excited for. Like Thor's hammer hitting Captain America's shield. And the dialogue between them, that was nice as well to see. That's why it's one of the reasons why people were so excited for this movie, because you get to see stuff like that. But yeah, like I said, I think it was really good. I'm going to give it 8.5 out of 10.
Good. Still sticking with the 0.5s. I agree with pretty much every positive you said, and yeah, I'm still not enthusiastic about this film. I agree that this film did kind of leave me with a sense of like of fun kind of superhero, yeah, we saved the day, the world's great. But this film, and yeah, I'm going to go back to my enduring criticism, this film didn't really make me kind of feel for the characters in any way. It didn't make me think like, oh, I care about Captain Iron Man. I do think this film was possibly kind of the best job you could do with this premise. I think that like everything that I would have to criticize this film for would be things that are kind of endemic to this film. Like, I'd criticize it for not being able to develop the characters enough individually, not having enough kind of, like I say, Goldilocks zone characters who you actually think have a chance of dying. And all of those things, the problem is you're introducing all these characters I think this was a good film. That's kind of just my very simple summary. I have realised something, because I have rated both the films we're going to review. Of course, in a minute we're going to start reviewing Age of Ultron. And a bit of a spoiler about my review of Age of Ultron, which you might be able to guess, is that I've realised that where I rank the Marvel films now corresponds to pretty much exactly how many characters are in each film. So my favourite is Iron Man, which has just Iron Man. And then my second favourite, and this is why I say it's good you brought it up, is still Thor Ragnarok, which had, of course, Thor and the Hulk. And I liked Thor Ragnarok because I thought it was interesting. I thought, I want to know what's happening with this place. And just below it, above Minority Report, below Thor Ragnarok, is the Avengers, which, again, it is kind of why I say that it is kind of symptomatic of having too many characters, because, of course, Captain America Civil War is below the Avengers, and that had even more characters than the Avengers. So yeah, I mean, like I say, this film is not bad, and I mean, I don't think Minority Report's bad, and I rated Minority Report below this, but this film is not, it's not, I wouldn't put it that high in my list of favourite superhero films. I would say this film is, and actually, I'm going to say this because I do think this is relevant. Something I've often said about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that you should have, or how I would do it, is I would have literally every single character be kind of separate, have every single character have their own separate story arc. So you have the Iron Man story arc, you have the Thor story arc, and then at the end, as a gimmick, you bring them all together in the Avengers, and you have it be kind of like consciously farcical. So it's like, we're combining the Hulk with Thor, we're combining Iron Man with Captain America, this is silly. But you could even kind of have like it be done by dimension stuff. So they all live in different dimensions. They're brought together by the Fantastic Four, and then like something. Because I almost felt this concept is inherently kind of like a gimmick, and a lot of the Marvel Cinematic Universe feels like a gimmick, and it's a fun gimmick, but it's not a gimmick I can take seriously. And I think this film wants me to take it a bit more seriously than I'm willing to take it. Basically, like Thor Ragnarok's fine. That's a fun gimmick, and it's fun. Iron Man is actually a kind of serious film about international terrorists and arms dealers and things like that. This film is kind of in the middle. It feels like a gimmick like Thor Ragnarok, but then it almost seems kind of too serious. I don't know. And that's my opinion.
Okay, well, good stuff. So there we go. That is our Avengers 2012 review.
Hello and welcome to Select to Reflect, where we'll be reviewing Avengers Age of Ultron. And I am your host, Michael, and today we'll be ending our review of the Marvel Cinematic Universe films by looking at Avengers Age of Ultron. It's, of course, Luke, why don't you tell us a bit about Avengers Age of Ultron? I said, why don't you tell us a bit about Avengers Age of Ultron?
Oh, right. Well, sorry. As you know, the Skype recording isn't that great, so you may need to cut that bit out.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll do it. I shall go. So, Avengers Age of Ultron is a 2015 American superhero film based on the Marvel Comics superhero team, the Avengers. Directed by Joss Whedon, yet again. Starring, here we go, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner, Don Cheadle, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, Kobe Smulders, Anthony Mackie, Haley Atwell, Idris Elba, Stellan Skarsgård, James Spader, and Samuel L. Jackson. The release date was May the 1st, 2015.
May the 1st be with you.
Mm-hmm. The budget, do you want to have a guess?
250 million.
The budget was 316 million gross and 264.4 million net. So whichever answer is correct, it means you're wrong. Doesn't matter. Do you want to have a guess at the box office?
1.35 billion.
1.35 is very close. It's 1.4 billion.
Well, you know what? That's because you know how I was saying earlier that I had seen a number and I didn't know if it was this one or that one. But anyway, yeah. Good. Glad I got that. Well done me.
Yeah. Okay. So, Michael, do you want to ask me the all-important question?
Yes. Luke, did you like the Nazi Party?
No, but
did you
I kind of liked Avengers Age of Ultron. It was okay.
Would you say they're comparable?
How about you?
Yeah, I mean, this was fine. I didn't dislike it. I know there's actually a video on YouTube that I saw a while ago. I didn't see it recently enough that I really remember it that well, but it's called Reasons Avengers Age of Ultron Sucks, and it's by quite a reputable movie reviewer who makes quite good movie reviews. And I didn't disagree with any of his points when I was watching it, but even though I didn't disagree with any of his points, I wouldn't say this film sucked.
No, it did not suck.
But despite not sucking, we do have nitpicks. We haven't actually gone through our structure for this, but we'll work it out as we go along.
Yeah.
How many nitpicks you got, Luke?
I think I've got 0, Michael.
Oh, that's crazy, because I've got 4, and I think I'm okay with all of them.
Okay, wow. I mean, like, there wasn't anything major for me, so I'm interested to see what you say.
Yeah, I mean, okay, I'm trying to try and go from least major to most major. I don't know. So this one's maybe not a nitpick, but Thor runs to rescue this woman in this car. Like, there's this car falling off of, I guess I should say, Ultron lifts up this massive city. It reminds me of the end of Superman Returns, where Lex Luthor decides to lift up a giant continent in order to cause a tsunami. Anyway, so Ultron lifts up this giant city, and this car's falling off it, and Thor goes to save the day and rescue this woman. And while he's rescuing her, you see this other car with someone in it fall off in the background. And, like, you can see someone in it. Like, you can see someone in the car in the background falling behind him. And then, I feel like these two Avengers, like, I feel like Captain America's there too. And they both kind of team up to rescue this woman. And it's, like, supposed to be, like, a small moment of heroism. But all I'm thinking about is the guy in the background who you can clearly see falling to his death. I don't know. Okay. The weird thing is they chose to animate that guy in there. Like, I don't know why. Like, and again, it's not like I'm just assuming the car was occupied. So yeah, I mean, obviously I understand they can't save everyone, and I'm not. But it was kind of a bit bizarre.
Well, we know that from Captain America: Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But it's kind of like a bit bizarre to have it be kind of like, look at this small moment of heroism and how much the little guy matters. Whoa!
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's not necessarily a logical inconsistency. I just thought it was a weird choice in terms of like framing and filming.
Give me the next one, Michael.
All right. Okay. So I've got this one. Vision, sounding like Jarvis, doesn't make any sense. And this is a general criticism of something that happens in films all the time, which is there's this inherent connection between consciousness and vocals or voice. Like, there's this presumption that, for example, if my brain was in a computer, that computer would sound like me, or if my brain was in a robot, that would. And of course, in Harry Potter, you get the Polyjuice potion, and even though they look like Crabbe and Goyle, they sound like Harry and Ron. And of course, what we really know, Luke, is that the quality of your voice, or the sound of your voice, is not rendered in your brain, is it, Luke? It's not rendered in your mind. It's rendered in your voice box. And in the case of Jarvis's voice comes from a computer vocalizer. It comes from the speaker. And there is no reason why putting his consciousness into a robot would call a robot a organic robot. I stand by this.
This is such a stupid nitpick, man.
Stand by.
No,
they put his consciousness into this organic robot.
How else is he going to sound like?
He should sound like a completely random human being.
Okay, that's great. Well done.
It should just be an arbitrary voice box.
Maybe he wants to speak how he spoke before, so he's.
They should have shown him requesting that. Oh, actually, you know what? Maybe I will allow for this. Maybe he modified his own voice box.
Yeah, there you go.
But they didn't explain that. I wish he would have gone. I wish what would have happened, he would have gone, I don't like this voice very much. I think I'll change my voice box. And then that would have ended it.
Okay.
Now, these two I actually stand by more sincerely. Even more sincerely than his voice not changing. Two things to do with Quicksilver. Quicksilver is, of course, the Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, and he can run really fast. He was also in the X-Men Days of Future Past.
He was, yes.
Number one, Quicksilver is running really, really fast. And of course, one of the things about people running really fast is that they also seem to have super intelligence, because he can not only run really fast, but he can apparently process everything so fast that it's like slow motion to him, which I don't have a problem with. I just think that's an extra thing. It's not just that he can run really fast. He can also think really, really fast. But there's a bit where he's running along, he's in fast motion. He goes past Thor's hammer, as Thor's hammer is being thrown, and he grabs Thor's hammer, and then he is propelled across the room really, really quickly. Now, you probably didn't even notice this, Luke. He grabs Thor's hammer. Okay.
I did.
Here's the problem with that. Him grabbing Thor's hammer wouldn't speed up time for him. What would actually happen is, he's running along in his super fast, ultra fast processing mode, sees Thor's hammer, grabs it, then realizes he can't, change the direction of the hammer, realizes he can't pull it, is still holding onto it, and he thinks, I can't affect this hammer. I'm holding onto this hammer. It's continuing to move in that direction, and I can't do anything to it. And then he'd let go. He wouldn't, what would have had to have happened for that scene to make sense is that in his ultra-fast, super-processing brain, he continued to hold onto that hammer for what would have felt like half a minute to him as he was slowly dragged across the room by this hammer. Because it's clearly shown that he experiences time in slow motion. So what was happening when he's holding onto this hammer, and we see it in super fast motion, he goes flying across the room, but in his mind, where he clearly processes everything really, really, quickly, he would have just been slow, like, oh, this hammer's dragging me across the room. And that is just a logical inconsistency. I can't argue that.
Okay.
Second problem with Quicksilver. And this one is like one of those ones where it's nitpick on top of nitpick. His death. I could make a kind of story-based criticism where I say his death's kind of like he felt quite expendable and his death sort of felt like whatever. But I'm not going to make that story-based criticism because, we'll talk about that later. The logic of it. So he runs in front of them and gets shot. But you can see that there are bullet marks out of his body. So he didn't stop the bullets. Now, first of all, I thought that was stupid, but then I realized, because I actually went back to look at it, and I realized you can see in the background a metal kind of sheet that has bullet holes in it. So I'm guessing that he also picked up, I don't know, maybe I'm just making it up, that there was a metal sheet in the background, kind of on side that had bullet holes in it. I'm thinking maybe he picked up the metal sheet, but that didn't even make a difference. I don't even know why I did that. And then they went through that too. And then, here's the other thing, Luke, though. I think, basically, they killed off Quicksilver because Quicksilver is overpowered. Quicksilver is the most powerful person. I think this. Quicksilver is the most powerful person in these films, because you watch it at the beginning, they can't do anything to Quicksilver. Hawkeye can shoot Loki with a bow and arrow. Hawkeye can shoot, the Hulk with a bow and arrow. Hawkeye can do... He can't fucking shoot Quicksilver. Quicksilver is this guy who processes everything that's happening around him, light speed, runs around faster than the speed of sound, can just, knock bullets out the way, which is what we'll go into. Can knock bullets out the way. He can do all this stuff. If he was there in the first Avengers, he could have just sprinted, taken Loki's shit, and then just run away. He can just... And that's why they had to kill him off, basically, because he was overpowered.
Well, I think they had to kill him off because he's in Days of Future Past and X-Men.
Well, yeah,
so
that's
they didn't want
it too.
people get confused. Yeah.
I think it's double, to be honest. I think it's both of them. But I do think, I was thinking that too, but I also think, yeah, he is, I was thinking about how overpowered he is, and I was thinking about how, it didn't really make sense that that's what killed him. Because, that if they didn't want him to die there, they would have just had him go, run over with his super speed and knock the bullets out of the way. I guess you've seen X-Men Days of Future Past. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the bit when Quicksilver's in that, and it's kind of the police shoot at them, and then he goes into super fast mode, and he literally just kind of nudges the bullets out of the way. I'm going to assume that the two Quicksilvers have roughly, are pretty much comparable in their powers, seeing as they are generally presented as being comparable in their powers. So, I don't know, yeah. I just thought everything about Quicksilver's death, it didn't even make sense that would kill him, because he's, the super fast person who could probably just move the bullets out of the way if he wanted to. And number two, he tries to block the bullets, and the bullets go through him. So how did he even stop the bullets from hitting the guy he was trying to stop the bullets from hitting? I don't get that. That's my main criticism. How did the
what,
bullets
Michael?
clearly...
You know what? He's dead. Okay.
There was an
dead.
exit
It's
wound,
over.
Luke. So basically, that's why I hate Quicksilver.
Okay, so we'll just go on to the plot now. Have you spent 20 minutes going through 4 nitpicks? Well done. So the plot. The Avengers in the country of Sokovia are trying to take down this Hydra facility run by this guy called Wolfgang von Strucker. They encounter 2 of Strucker's test subjects, Pietro and Wanda, who of course are Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. And they're looking for Loki's staff. They get Loki's staff, And Stark and Banner then discover an artificial intelligence within the staff's gem, and secretly decide to use it to complete Stark's Ultron global defense program. Then the unexpectedly sentient Ultron believes he must eradicate humanity to save Earth, eliminates Stark's AI, Jarvis, and attacks the Avengers at their headquarters. And then, a load of stuff happens, culminating in Jarvis, or Vision, being created by a mixture of Ultron, Dr. Helen Cho, and Iron Man, or Tony Stark, who obviously hasn't learned his lesson, so goes to try and create another all-powerful being. This time he's successful, so, did he really learn his lesson?
If at first you don't
succeed,
a character arc. Try again.
There's a character arc. There's a character arc in the first Avengers with Tony Stark when he's called out for being selfish, and then makes the unselfish move at the end by sacrificing himself. But in this one, it's the complete opposite. He's like, you know what? Maybe you shouldn't create these all-powerful beings, but he does it anyway. Didn't really learn his lesson, did Tony Stark. So then there's this battle in Sokovia where Ultron is trying to drop Sokovia, the capital of Sokovia, whatever that's called, onto the Earth, and to basically kill the human race and start again, create peace, evolution, all that bullshit.
Evolution.
He fails, and the Avengers succeed, and that is the end of the movie.
Yep. Let's talk about that plot then.
Let's talk about the plot. Yeah.
I want to relate one of my points to my criticism of the first film. I liked how the first action scene wasn't completely related to the original plot. I am now going to admit that I have forgotten what the first action scene... the first action scene, yeah. So the first action scene was kind of like, I liked the first action scene, because it was exactly what I think the action scene should have been in the Avengers. It was like, the characters... Well, the problem is, the Avengers couldn't have done this, because in this one, it had already had the Avengers established, so the Avengers couldn't have done exactly this, but it was the characters working together to kind of take out this thing that was related to the main plot, and obviously it introduced, for example, some of the characters, but it wasn't literally kick-starting plot. I liked that. And having said that, I mean, I don't know, I'll let you, do you want to say anything about that, or should I just power through?
Yeah, no, I didn't like it as much as the opening Avengers plot. Yeah, no, it's kind of like, there was no tension, no stakes. I was like, whatever.
I think I don't mind not having tension in the first part of the film. I think that's kind of my thing. Like, I will forgive having absolutely zero stakes for the first 10 minutes. The first 10 minutes can literally just be a blank screen, and I'll be like, this is fine. It's fine. It doesn't need to be anything exciting.
Maybe for a first-time viewing. For a first-time viewing, yes, but watching it back, it's like kind of pointless. It's like, okay, just get me to the plot. That's what
I can see
I feel like. Yeah. Okay,
go on. Let's be honest, actually, I didn't know if I really liked this one on the second viewing. Or something. And also, I feel like there wasn't any stakes because Quicksilver's so overpowered. He literally just mess up everyone. Anyway, but then, and you're going to hate me.
Like Gabriel Bonglaho in FIFA 12.
I think the plot still came in a bit too fast. Even
oh my god, what is your problem?
I'll clarify this. I don't think the plot came in too fast. And I think the action scene, for the kickstart action scene, came in a bit too quickly. I liked where they were going. I think basically, and this is, again, like, I agree this is a minor thing, like 5 minutes later, and I would have been, just that would have been the perfect spot for me. That's the sweet spot. I think it happened at like the 15-minute mark, and I was like, just 20-minute mark, first plot-related action scene. So 2 out of 10.
Okay.
Action scene was 5 minutes too early.
I think the plot was, the pacing, well, actually, the plot came in fine, but I'd say the pacing of the plot, or the pacing of the whole movie, is quite weird. Like, the trip to Hawkeye's house was really peculiar. Like, it was just so random, to see them just go into this house, where they're chopping wood and fixing tractors, and like, it's not necessary, as a point in the movie. Like, they could have just cut all that. I don't know why all that was in there.
Oh, you know what? It's actually interesting you should mention that, because there is an article about how, I think it's an article, or it might be an interview, about how Joss Whedon fought really hard to keep that scene in there.
Why?
It's okay, so you know Nerdwriter, I guess.
No, but go on.
Do you know? Okay, you know video essays, the whole concept of like
Yeah.
So Nerdwriter is kind of a really big video essayist, and he has a video about it's actually about I think Batman vs Superman, but he's basically talking about how Batman vs Superman doesn't have any kind of heart in it, doesn't have any characters in it, and then he says, there's this interview where Josh Whedon talks about how he fought to keep the farmhouse scene in because he felt it kind of humanized the characters. So that's why it was in there apparently, because it humanized characters. To me, and this is my stance on it, the farmhouse scene felt like the equivalent to the jokes in the Justice League movie. So the Justice League movie, everyone was like, "Oh, it's too dark." The DC in general, everyone was like, "Oh, it's too dark. It's not fun. Why can't it be like the Avengers? The Avengers are fun." Blah 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 blah. Which I'm behind. So I don't mind people saying that.
Yeah.
But and then of course in the Justice League they had these really ham-fisted, "Hey guys, look, we're Marvel. We're fun. We make jokes." This thing, it felt like kind of like ham-fisted. Look. It's a sentimental scene, and that's why it didn't fit to me. Like it wasn't really a pacing thing necessarily. It was more like, they're trying to,
maybe. Like you just shove it into the middle of the movie. Yeah.
Yeah, it would work better if they had established a habit of having slow sentimental scenes that they don't, and it's kind of just like, what was? I mean, like that's the thing. I mean, it would have works. I think it works well for Hawkeye because Hawkeye is like not very interesting in terms of his power. And I kind of almost made me think like they were actually going to have Hawkeye die. Like I really did. I mean, when I first watched it, I guess because I was thinking to myself, maybe they're setting up his character so it will be emotional when he dies. But he didn't die. Quicksilver died instead, as we well know.
Yes. Okay, so that was the farmhouse scene. I just wanted to say as well, this plot is a lot less simple. I think it's quite convoluted how Ultron comes to be. So obviously you have this scene in which something in the staff is like AI, and then he's attacking Jarvis. And obviously in the first the first movie, you get Loki, straight up an evil guy. He's got motivation. You know what he's trying to do, but in this one, it's quite complicated how Ultron actually comes to be. I don't really understand it too well.
I was going to bring that up myself, but then I was worried that it was one of those things where I should have been able to work it out and I couldn't. But also, when I said earlier in the podcast, which is of course very recently, I said that the action was a bit too fast in coming, and then I kind of clarified and I said, I said the plot was too fast in coming. And then I clarified, I mean the action was too fast in coming. For me, like the reason for that is that, like I think that's kind of related. They should have drawn out the process of making Ultron. And I don't know if I mentioned this. I had this thought in my head. I think I was going to say it, and then we kind of had some issues with technicalities. Because for those at home, we're recording this the day after the last podcast. I was going to mention Victor Frankenstein, the film.
You did not mention that.
Did I not mention that? Okay, well, I was thinking about Victor Frankenstein because I haven't seen Victor Frankenstein, but as far as I know, the thing about it is that the entire film is about the technicalities of bringing Frankenstein to life, and the adventures of the people doing it, and then at the end it's just like you see Frankenstein for like a second, which I do not dislike as an idea. And in this film, I think it would have been maybe better if they would have had the entire, possibly first act of the film being kind of not action-packed, just Tony Stark and Mark Ruffalo having, character moments and also working together, and you could kind of have, for example, more steps that they consciously take as, in the progression of the story, where it's like, oh, we can turn this into AI, because it doesn't make sense at all why it is that the staff has AI in it. Like, they should have a scene where they're like, oh, what does this staff do? And then it's kind of like they work it out. And then you can have, for example, maybe things go wrong at first, and all this stuff kind of would just stretch out what is because it literally is almost within the space of 3 scenes. Hey, look, this staff has AI in it. Oh, it's a robot. It just killed Jarvis. And then they're at a party, and then literally the next thing that happens is some robot guy comes in and starts blowing things up.
Yeah, you're right. I think if you had more character moments between Stark and Banner, and maybe in those moments, you could actually explain more what happens with Ultron. Because I'm reading off the Wikipedia page here. It says the unexpectedly sentient Ultron. And why was he not meant to be sentient? I don't know. It's not really explained. So yeah, yeah. Did you find it confusing or not?
I found it really confusing. I mean, the weird thing. I also kind of found Vision a bit confusing. I don't know if the thing with Thor and the lightning. Too much Norse mythic artifacts meeting science, and it wasn't really. I mean, because the thing is, it's kind of an interesting idea because I'm sure there is a film that's done this before, but kind of the idea of human technology harnessing spiritual energy. I'm sure I've seen something like that where it's like, some people have to get this mystical artifact and they use it to create energy, and that's like kind of an interesting premise. And I think with Vision, it's kind of like I think Vision's a clever character because it's basically like half biological science, half technology, and then I was going to say three halves. That doesn't really make 1/3, I should say, and then 1/3, mystical spiritual intervention, and that's like a clever idea. But it's kind of also an idea that you need to kind of explore or walk the audience through.
Yeah, I think that would be nice. I mean, the whole plot. I mean, there's so many things going on. So yeah, obviously the main thing is to defeat Ultron, but then then there's this Jarvis thing which is thrown into the mix as well. And Ultron, I don't know why Ultron feels the need to evolve. I don't know why he feels he needs to do that because he seems like he's pretty evolved already. And then Jarvis obviously comes into play, and he's a good guy, which is nice. And I guess I feel like this movie, it was like a placeholder. Like they needed to have a bad guy in Ultron, but the original Avengers movie, it set up Thanos, who of course is going to be in Avengers Infinity War. And they didn't set up the villain for this movie, so I think this movie just sort of had to happen. Age of Ultron, it's like just something that we got to do another Avengers movie. The timelines don't line up. Let's just stick a lot of stuff in here. Like we can have the creation of another Avenger in Jarvis, and we can have Tony Stark Tony Stark creating this program to kill or to try and save the world that tries to kill everybody. I just don't think there was a coherent plan with this movie.
It did feel, it definitely felt like another film that is out of nowhere, and again, you don't get the sense that it was leading up to this. It's not like, oh, of course, it was all leading up to Ultron destroying Sokovia.
And that's the thing. The Avengers,
and it doesn't affect much.
Yeah, the Avengers
either.
all the movies lead up to the Avengers. The Avengers feel like a finality, but Ultron just feels like it's another things are continuing, storylines are continuing. Obviously, you get Hulk doing his thing and going off to it sets up Ragnarok and everything with that. And obviously, this Infinity War, like the first Avengers, it feels like it's going to have a finality to it. It's like, okay, this is where everything it's been building up to this, and this is where everything ends. That wasn't the case in this movie, and I think you could see it clearly. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's again. I suppose I wasn't, like I say, I did say that I wasn't massively invested in the Avengers, but I was definitely far more invested in the Avengers than I was in this. I mean, the character of Ultron, and I guess the weird thing is he does kind of have a character. I don't know if I completely understand his motivation because, and the other thing is I don't really understand Tony Stark's motivation, because Tony Stark, he wants to create, and this is kind of going back to the weirdness of his creation, but he wants to create this AI because he believes the AI will be a better crime fighter than they will, basically. He says, what if, we're not able to stop something, this AI will be better at it. Which is kind of not really true. I mean, they basically kill Ultron 10 times. He seems they kill different incarnations of him, then he has to rebuild himself. He doesn't seem particularly powerful, but obviously, Tony Stark couldn't have known that. But the other thing is, I'm not sure why he thought, this spiritual energy from a weapon that was used by the, antagonist of the last film is just what I need to complete my superhero. I don't know why he thought it would work and what his logic was.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the thing is, Banner and Tony Stark are talking about, like, Ultron. Like, and I think Bruce Banner says, "Oh, I thought that was a pipe dream or something." So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm pretty sure it hasn't been established before in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, they probably should. It would have made sense if they would have established it. Like, if it was something they were consciously working on, in the previous films. I mean, obviously it would obviously change all of the previous films. But maybe they could put it into Thor: The Dark World, make that a little less pointless.
Maybe. Now, Thor: The Dark World's really important.
But the other thing is, I don't really understand why, with Ultron, I don't understand why it is that he has been created. I mean, unless Tony Stark is just an idiot who just put in this thing. If we assume Tony Stark has the foresight to actually think about what he's doing, and obviously there is an argument that is kind of his arrogance means he doesn't think about what he's doing. But if we assume that he didn't just kind of blag making this super intelligent AI monster thing, then he had to have some thoughts of effort to make this thing good, and therefore it's like, why did it turn bad? And it almost makes Tony Stark look like an idiot, because they could have done this, and again, this kind of goes back into me wanting to push back the moment when everything goes wrong, but they could have done it so that Ultron was originally good, and in that way you could kind of see, because I guess his motivation for because he wants to destroy humanity, but he was created to protect humanity, or I guess you could say to fight evil or whatever, and it's maybe almost even a bit of a biblical flood narrative in a way, because it's kind of like,
well, he says
his motivation.
That, doesn't he?
Does he say that?
He says it's so did Noah, or
okay.
something about that when Scarlet Witch was questioning him about blowing up or destroying the world. He said, "Well, Noah did it," or something like that.
I do occasionally miss lines. I think I think sometimes I hear lines and then I attribute them to myself. Like, I'll come into these reviews like, here's an original thought, and then you're like, they mention that in the film.
Yeah.
But yeah, it obviously is a Noah narrative, and it's kind of like, obviously the point is, you've got to fight evil. Well, humanity is the cause of a lot of evil. Even though I don't think that the Avengers tend to fight human forces. Just as a thought, the Avengers, when they come together, haven't fought human forces. I don't think even that many of the...
They thought that evil Nazi doctor at the beginning.
Yeah, I'm thinking... Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Like, they've got Nazi doctors, and I guess Iron Man's villains are human, so that's something.
Yeah.
But most of the villains are from outer space, so I would think that his plan to destroy humanity wouldn't really help. But yeah, I mean, it would make sense if you kind of did see... Because, yeah, you could imagine that motivation making sense, but it would be nice to see him actually reach that conclusion through, throughout the film, or not necessarily throughout the film, but there'd be a moment where you're like, oh, wait, no, Ultron's betraying them. I guess the problem is it would have been more interesting if there was a betrayal.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. I think this movie, I mean, you said it would have been more interesting. This movie just isn't that interesting at all. And that is something that obviously I think... there's nothing about it which is great at all. There's nothing about it which is bad either. There's nothing about it which is bad, but yeah, it's kind of just like meh, like middle of the road kind of stuff. But I just want to have one last thing to say about the motivation. So it's interesting how Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, their motivation comes from Tony Stark bombing their house when they were younger. I believe that was the case.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
And obvioly,
I don't think it was him personally doing it.
I know. Yeah, it wasn't. It was.
It was Stark weapons.
Yeah, Stark Industries. Yeah, that's why.
That would be funny. Just Tony Stark just walked into the house and starts throwing grenades.
And the thing is, yeah, that was bad. But they must have heard the news that he's renounced his weapon building ways, and now
that's a good point.
Now he's a superhero who literally saved humanity in New York. Like, I understand having a grudge against a guy if he helped destroy your family, although he didn't actually fire the missile. But I'm pretty sure he's done a lot of good since then. He literally saved your lives and whatever family you have left, and the whole world. So the same thing with Zeno in Avengers: Age of Ultron. His motivation was okay, the Avengers killed your family, but they didn't really. It was Ultron. and I don't think Zemo knew that Ultron was created by Tony Stark. So again, it's kind of like, yeah, I'm not really sure this motivation makes that much sense. But yeah, that's
I think
what I just had to say on that. Yeah.
Zemo's motivation kind of makes more sense because at least the thing that Zemo is angry about them over happened recently. With these guys, it's like they're angry about something that happened
probably like 10
like
years
you say,
ago.
before Tony Stark. Like there has been a marked change in Tony Stark's character since, presumably. I mean, you almost certainly because, like you say, he's not selling weapons. I don't know if he doesn't manufacture weapons anymore, or if he just.
I imagine he doesn't know.
I was wondering maybe he just kind of because obviously, I mean, he does manufacture weapons, but only weapons that he can use.
Exactly. Yeah.
I don't have much to say. You were saying how this film isn't particularly interesting. I don't have that much to say. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
I have basically one thing to say about the ending, pretty much.
Okay, go on.
Okay, so first of all, disposable CGI army.
Yeah.
There is, this is, and the thing is, they almost take it to kind of a ridiculous degree because, like I said earlier, they kill quote Ultron several times in this film, but the thing is, obviously, he's a
He's an artificial intelligence.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
He can go from robot to robot.
Which takes it to an even like more ridiculous degree, because this time it's not even like in the Avengers, the criticism is that they're killing kind of mindless henchmen. But in this case, they're not even henchmen. It's just the main character over and over again.
Yeah.
And the kind of... So first of all, obviously, there was no stake. And this was another example of, and I feel like I say this a lot about these Avengers films, but it's not really any effort for them to kill the antagonists. It's just that there are so many of them that they have. It is like one of those things where it's almost like grunt work. Like it's just like it's not hard for them. They've just got to do it. They're just clocking in the hours. But the other thing is, and this is what kind of really annoys me about it. Robots, I mean, the obvious thing that I kind of think of this is Terminator. The whole thing with Terminator is that the robots in Terminator are really indestructible. Pretty much the entire plot of most Terminators. I feel like they've dropped this a bit with the new Terminators. In the new Terminators, they're a bit easier to kill. But in the first 3 Terminators, the plot is basically, how do we kill this Terminator?
Yeah.
The entire plot is just working out. And that's the thing, like, that's interesting because it's one villain who's really difficult to kill, and they could have made the robots harder to kill. But I swear, there's a scene where Hawkeye kills one with his bow and arrow, and it doesn't even seem like it's like a I know he has all these gadget bow and arrows, but it literally looked like just a regular arrow, and I was like, I mean, yeah, I'll give it the benefit of the doubt and say it had some kind of digital scrambler in it or explosive thing or heat thing.
I remember. I just want to say in the build-up to the Avengers Age of Ultron. And obviously there was trailers about it, and you could see these robots, these robot drones attacking the Avengers. And I remember seeing on some internet show or somewhat talking about the Avengers Age of Ultron, and they were saying, like, this person was saying, I bet these robot drones, they're gonna be able to destroy them so easily at the end of the movie. Like, they're just going to be like, just snap their fingers and they die. And maybe at the start, they have a bit of trouble, but by the end, like, they're just punching them and kicking them and they're falling apart.
Cut them down like butter.
Exactly, yeah. The Avengers, they just cut them down like butter.
They really are quite useless.
Hawkeye gets out his laser arrow and just goes to town on them.
That's something everyone's excited to see.
Yeah, everyone wants to see that. Yeah, it's just like, again, it's just, like I said, the first Avengers movie was fine that they did that. Because it's the first one and it makes sense. You got a lot of characters to fight a lot of mindless CGI army people, but yeah, and the second one, like, come on, you got to do better than that. And I hope Avengers Infinity War doesn't do that.
Yeah, well, the 2 things, I guess, kind of related. Number one, you'd kind of think that it would be good to do. The problem is, I feel like they can't do this because of the fact that these films are supposed to continue indefinitely. But in a lot of trilogies, they have kind of a 3-act structure. Star Wars is a classic example of this. The first film, it's just a simple, solid film. The second film, the whole thing is that everything goes wrong.
Well, that didn't really happen in this movie, did it?
Well, yeah, exactly. And in obviously even in the Last Jedi, as much as we'll talk about it, one of the things that happens in the Last Jedi is everything goes wrong. Like the Last Jedi pretty much. I mean, well, not everything goes wrong, but a lot of it doesn't go well, and that's kind of like a classic structure. And therefore, if you wanted to do a classic structure, you would have the first film, like you say, very simple plot, very kind of tight, coherent. Watch the good guys get introduced to them, watch them have time, and then the second one, you challenge them and you put them to the test. And this film didn't challenge them and put them to the test. It was still stuck in introducing them mode.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I always think that you should have the characters come together because there's a challenge that they can't defeat on their own. But this film, there is no massive challenge. Like, it would be, I mean, there's no challenge, and I can't think of any of the big kind of Avengers films, and that's including Captain America: Civil War, which is basically an Avengers film, even though it's called Captain America. I can't think of any of the films where it's kind of like there's a drawn out moment of defeat. It always seems kind of. I feel like possibly the first one did the best job with Loki kind of tricking them and like getting the jump on them, but even then, I don't know. Yeah, there's never a moment where you feel like they don't have everything.
Yeah, they're always on the front foot. Like they go. Remember, they figure out that thingy majigany. Ultron wants some Wakandan vibranium, and they get there in Wakanda. Like they know what he's doing. They know every step of the way. And I mean, they still need that giant helicarrier to come in and save them all right at the end. But there was no point in the movie where I thought they couldn't get it together. Even when they were at the farmhouse and they were all having difficulties, it's like, okay, let's just get to the end and let's just see them solve it. Nobody actually believes that they're not going to be able to stop the Earth from getting destroyed.
Yeah, the weird thing about the farmhouse thing actually is you said it felt out of place, and obviously I found the video where it was talking about how Joss Whedon fought to keep it in, but like it was basically just reconfirming what I already said. You said it felt out of place, and I was obviously talking about how it kind of the tone is a bit weird because it's the film trying to be like, look, characters. But the other thing that kind of felt weird about it was that I guess the reason they'd gone to the farmhouse is because, like you say, they'd been defeated because all of their kind of tech had gone dark. And I think that's quite a common theme, especially in spy films, where the characters' tech goes dark, or they lose their connections, and they've got to go rogue, and they've got to go kind of back to basics and fight that way. Like, for example, I mean, it happens in Kingsman. In that case, it's not necessarily that the tech goes dark, but the Kingsman organization has basically fallen apart in a way because they don't know who to trust. So they've got to have this small little operation to save the day. I feel like it happens in several James Bonds.
Yeah.
But in this film, it's kind of like when they get to the farmhouse, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess they're kind of in trouble because Ultron presumably has scrambled a lot of their tech.
Oh no, I thought it was just they were in trouble because they needed to lay low for a while because Hulk just destroyed like half of Wakanda.
Well, okay, there's I don't know which one's true.
The weird thing is that a worldwide backlash over the resulting destruction appears Wanda's hallucinations incited. Send the team into a hiding at a safe house. Nothing to do with the tech.
Really? Okay, yeah. Well, that's yeah.
So
I mean, the thing is,
sad.
Yeah, exactly. It kind of you don't. It almost seems like the thing about it, I guess, is that it doesn't feel as if the plot forces them to that safe house, and that's kind of another reason why it feels. It's like they're just choosing to have a break, basically.
Yeah.
Like, how about a little?
They just need a day
vacation?
Off.
Yeah, because you can really easily make a film where the characters who are usually in control are forced into an environment where they're not in control. That's like a really easy thing to do, and they couldn't do it.
They weren't even forced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, do you want to sum up?
I actually have one thing to bring up. It's not really plot related, but it was something I was thinking about when I watched this because. The first time I watched this film, I wasn't really thinking about this, and then afterwards I heard all about this. There have been some criticisms of this film from feminists. And
here we go.
I thought it was kind of interesting, because, I don't know, I just thought it was worth sort of bringing up, because it was, obviously Joss Whedon, I guess maybe Joss Whedon is he Josh or Joss?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Joss.
Yeah, he is a bit of a social justice warrior.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know, but he was criticised in this film for not doing. I forgot. I keep wanting to call her Scarlet Witch. I know
Black Widow. Yeah.
Not doing Black Widow well.
Why?
Well, see, I was wondering that because the first time I watched the film, I didn't even think about it. The second time, I was kind of looking for it. And it seems as if this is the only criticism. Well, there are kind of two criticisms, basically. One of them is more of a holistic criticism, where it's looking at her role in all of the films up to that point, and basically saying that in each of she's basically takes turns being the romantic interest of different people in the films, which is kind of funny when you think about it, because in
Wait, who's she the romantic interest in Avengers?
Well, she is kind of Hawkeye. Like she doesn't actually kiss him, but there's the scene where she's asking about like Hawkeye, and Loki's like, "Oh, do I hear love in your voice?" And obviously she says no, but it's still kind of like.
Well, they're just friends.
Yes, I know they are just friends.
They've gone on missions together. She knows Hawkeye's got a wife anyway, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
What I would say is that you're right. Basically, just to defend the argument, which I don't think is a fantastic argument, but the argument is basically that it wouldn't be surprising when you were watching the Avengers not knowing that Hawkeye had a wife. You wouldn't be surprised in that moment after the Avengers if Hawkeye and Black Widow ended up together. And of course now we know. And then in Winter Soldier, she was, and I haven't seen Winter Soldier in like quite a while, so I can only say this is apparently. I remember she was in it. Apparently she was kind of romantic, and also Captain America hints at it in this film. He says, "I've seen her flirtation up close." And then, obviously in this film, her whole thing's with Bruce Banner. And then they also mentioned, I did not see this anywhere. They said that she gets slut-shamed at some point in this film. And I can only say I didn't see that. I don't know where that came from. But here's one thing which I think is kind of weird. So, feminists said, that it was weird that, or her being sterilized was this horrible thing for her, and the argument was basically, why should that matter? She's a superhero. But okay, I don't mind that. I don't mind her being a thing. But here's the weird thing, and I don't know why this happened. That scene where they're in the she's talking to Bruce Banner, and she says that she's been sterilized. She says, "And you still think you're the only monster on this team?"
Well, I think I know why she says it. It's not because she's been sterilized. It's because she's been she's just like a killing. Well, she's just somebody that kills. She's not a person. Like the reason why they sterilized her was to remove any emotion. So it's just like she's a machine that kills people, and obviously I think that's not a very human characteristic.
I think that's a reasonable interpretation. And yeah, basically, I thought it was worth bringing up because it was one of the first kind of analytical or evaluative things I heard about this film, was people saying it's sexist, and I think that you're probably going to agree with me in saying that it's not really.
No, I can normally get a hint for these kind of things, but I just did not get that at all. I thought you were going to say it's sexist because Ultron locks her up in a dungeon. That's what I thought you were going for, something like that. But no, I totally like the Banner love interest. I mean, I can't remember Winter Soldier as well, but I don't really remember there being a romantic relationship between Captain America and Black Widow. I've totally forgotten it. If that's the case.
I think if there's anything that's at all kind of not necessarily sexist, but an essence of sexism, it's just how kind of rubbish Black Widow is. Like, I think in a way it's almost like the film has to be sexist because she's so underpowered that it's like the only thing they can really do with her is character stuff. And obviously, like for example, it's the same with, for example, Hawkeye. They put a focus on him having a family. And of course, if they put a focus on Black Widow having a family, you would see people, and I don't want to be one of the people like bloody feminist complain, but you would see people say, why does she have to have a family? And the short answer is she has to have a family, or she would have to have a family because she's just boring. But yeah,
she's not very interesting, Black Widow. But her backstory would be an interesting film. But I don't think
that's another thing people say. They say that there should be a Scarlet Witch solo film.
You mean Black Widow? Literally just mentioned it 5 seconds ago.
I was thinking
like Scarlett Johansson's too old now to do that, isn't she?
Yeah.
Like it's 2018. Like I'm pretty sure her first movie was back in 2011. She
Her
must have
first
done-
Avengers film.
Yeah, her first Avengers film.
I was going to say, 'cause
Yeah.
I know films she's
Oh no, yeah, it was 2010. Iron Man 2.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
So that was 8 years ago. Like, so you could have. That was a good time around then to do a Black Widow backstory. But like, I don't know, maybe they could use some of that technology that they used in Captain America: Civil War to make Tony Stark look young. They could do that with Scarlett Johansson to make her look like she's like 20 years old again. So maybe they could do that.
I agree. Yeah. So basically, I think we're saying that women are wrong.
That's what we're saying.
But yeah, it's
we mentioned
there are definitely bigger,
Yeah.
more sexist films than this,
definitely.
like Jurassic World.
Yes, and you'll get onto that soon. I
Yes.
hope. Coming along well.
It is actually. It's actually coming along really well.
Oh, that's great.
It's one of those things where I don't want to put a date to it, but yeah, it'll be exciting. Don't worry.
Okay. So
And that is
shall we sum up?
everything I have to say.
Okay, good. I will go first in conclusion. So in conclusion, I think this Avengers: Age of Ultron is kind of a placeholder of a Marvel movie. It kind of it feels like it had to happen. Obviously, you get an Avengers movie every 3 years. That's the thing. But just nothing significant occurred in this movie. I don't feel like that was the case apart from Jarvis becoming existing now. He's alive in this vision form or whatever. So that's the only thing. It's just a pretty bland superhero movie, and I think it's not bad. It's not great, and I don't really want to watch it again. I feel like it's the Avengers. It's this big movie which made 1.4 billion. It should be more memorable than it is, but it's kind of meh. Don't really care for it that much. And yeah, I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 6.5 out of 10.
I feel like now that you've introduced the 0.5s, you keep giving. I don't think I've heard you give a whole number since you've introduced the 0.5s.
I was gonna say 7, but I was like, you know what? I didn't enjoy it as good as other 7 movies, so I'm gonna get 6.5.
I just realised the one problem with me doing this on my laptop. I assume that it seems to have been quite good compared to how awful it was yesterday. So I think using my laptop's probably a good idea going forward. But I realised that I have my spreadsheet where I've got my rankings saved onto my computer, which isn't necessarily a problem. But I'm going to summarise this film anyway and kind of hopefully remember all the films we've reviewed, because I know where I would put this. I'm just trying to work out exactly what films we reviewed and where it would go relative to them. So this film is not great, really. I don't know if I desperately I wouldn't want to watch it again, and I don't think you really need to watch it again. I mean, the funny thing is that this film is referenced by Captain America: Civil War quite a bit, because the whole thing in Captain America: Civil War is they're talking about the things that happen in Sokovia, the Sokovia Accords. The convenient thing there is that Captain America: Civil War is also a completely pointless film.
Yeah, just pointless movie after pointless movie.
So you can basically what you can do. You know how there's fan edits of films where you remove the pointless scenes and things like that.
Yeah.
You can do not a fan edit of a film, but a fan edit of a cinematic universe where you just remove the films that are pointless.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I think it would be worth doing that kind of. You can actually probably get a pretty good combination if you did a fan edit of the films and then said, so for example, you could get all the handful of things worth mentioning in the other films that are generally pointless, put them into other films. If you could do that, but anyway, we're not going to do that because apart from anything else, fan edits are annoying because you're basically just breaking copyright.
Yeah.
It's a fun thing to do, but you are literally just hey, I changed one scene in this film, now it's my property.
Yeah. So, just on that note, I just want to say, sometimes with CinemaSins, you get 20-minute videos on a movie, and it just covers everything. You just know exactly what happens. You don't need to watch the movie. It's great.
That is a criticism of CinemaSins, is actually that they do rob quite good films sometimes of views, because what's the point? If you watch a CinemaSins, you don't really need to watch. Seeing as they will literally sin every single line of dialogue, you can basically watch the whole film.
Yeah, it's great.
Anyway, you pretty much summed it up. I mean, obviously, I went on a bit of a what's it called, tangent, but I think the tangent really says everything you need to say. That there's not really much, and obviously we've not spoken about. This has been a double whammy, Avengers and Age of Ultron, and it's not been massive. And I think we've kind of not even been. I feel like I haven't been talking as efficiently as I would be if I thought there was more to talk about.
Yeah, there's not really a lot to talk about, especially in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, not great. I think I mentioned at the start of this podcast, which again feels like 24 hours ago, that my likings of the films we've reviewed has correlated pretty much perfectly to how many characters there are in the film, or how many heroes there are in the film. So, like I said, Iron Man, you had Iron Man, favourite film. Thor, you had Thor, and you had the Hulk, second favourite film. Avengers, you had a lot more people than just the Thor and the Hulk, but you had, third favourite film. I think I'm right in saying that there are slightly fewer protagonists in this film than there were in Civil War, depending on how you define. I don't know if you would say. I mean, it's up for grabs. But anyway, this film is, in keeping with that, slightly better than Civil War, in my opinion. And I don't know exactly how I feel about that, because I think it's very close. This film
I think
and
it's
Civil
slightly
War.
worse, but yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I kind of view them both as being pointless, and it is funny that the only film that this really sets up is Civil War, and the only film you need to watch to understand Civil War is this film. And yeah, they're kind of just both in this little symbiotic plot circle of self-referential nothingness.
Yeah.
And that's my review of the two films. So yeah, and I would put them, well, wherever I put Civil War, this would be just above that, and I think that puts it below Minority Report.
Okay.
Like I say, I don't have my rankings in front of me.
Okay. So yeah, I'm just gonna say that to end it all, I saw an article today about James Cameron, obviously director of Avatar, and future director of Avatar 2, 3, 4, and 5, saying that we
I
could
didn't know there were 5 actually.
Yeah,
I thought there was just 4.
Maybe there is just 4, but a lot of Avatars basically. And he said that we could get Avengers fatigue, and superhero fatigue, which obviously is a bit hypocritical. But I don't know, like I don't feel like that's going to happen. I mean, this movie, Avengers Age of Ultron, is going to make like $2 billion probably. Sorry,
you mean Infinity War?
Yeah, I mean Infinity War. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
yeah. So it's going to make a lot of money. So I don't know. Do you feel like people are going to get tired of the Avengers?
I think that people will see. I mean, first of all, I'll say that I'm hoping that Infinity War. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think in the same way you are. I'm hoping that Infinity War will earn $2 billion, more so than a lot of other films. Superhero films. I think that people are never going to get superhero fatigue, but I don't know. See, here's the thing, and I was thinking about this, and I've kind of wanted to say this. When we were talking about Civil War, I said that there was something oddly dystopian in a cosmic sense about the airplane fight. And my point was that it's these people who they're fighting over something that is ostensibly, serious. It should superheroes be held accountable, That it was talking about the very essence of vigilante justice itself, and they're literally just having a fight for fun. And I think that actually carries through to a lot of the Avengers films, and I almost find it kind of dystopian that you have these films that don't have a massive focus on character and the human moment, but they have funny jokes and fun action, and that it's almost like I feel like these films have a certain superficial soul to them, and that makes me think that people will always like these films because people
are superficial.
People are superficial, so they'll be like, oh, this is a fun film because the characters look like they're having fun.
Yeah. But that's why a movie like Logan was so interesting.
I mean that's the thing.
Movie. Imagine that with Black Widow or something.
Yes,
That'd be really
or
good.
like we said, we mentioned how a darker Hulk solo film would be quite interesting.
Yeah.
I do think. I will say this: there are some people who talk about how films are getting worse, and they talk about, or kind of like the box office, the top 10 box office or whatever, it's crap. You know, all the films in the top 10 box office, whatever, is rubbish. But even if that's true, I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't affect me, because there will still be good films, and good films do get recognition. Like, you know, Deadpool was interesting, that got recognition. I think that at the end of the day, you know, your top 5 box office films are rarely going to be good. I mean, Black Panther is apparently good. That got recognition. So
yeah,
I don't think that I don't think terrible films like Transformers are ever going to stop being profitable. Well, you know,
not as profitable as they once were. Yeah,
and I don't think that kind of by the numbers effective films that don't really take any risks, like quite a few of the Marvel films, are ever going to stop becoming profitable. But I think that thankfully there will still be profitable good films.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, just as an aside, I am cautiously optimistic about. I feel like I've used the phrase cautiously optimistic
you used
twice
it once
about
before,
but anyway, about James Cameron's Avatar, and the reason why is because I just think like you've got to be confident if you're making
That's what I thought. Like, if you're going to make those movies, you've got to have some plan, and you got to like ask your wife or whatever, or maybe not your wife, some of your friends. Hey, do you think this is going to work? Like, and they go, yeah, actually, that's a really good idea. Okay,
exactly. I mean, because obviously Avatar, I haven't seen it in ages. Avatar is a good example of a film that it might be interesting to talk about on this podcast. I haven't seen it in ages. When I did see it, I thought it was, you know, a very kind of standard film. There's like so many tropes. It's like a tropes galore.
Well, we can go over that when when Avatar 2 comes out, and the week before we'll be doing that.
Yes, because it's Avatar's not a great film, but yeah, I do just think like you would almost think that you would make Avatar 2 just because it made money, you know, just because Avatar 1 made money. You would make Avatar 2 a few years after Avatar 1, and it would be just as bad. But what's he doing instead? He's not doing that. He's instead waited like 8 years or whatever, probably 9 years, and he's directing them all at once. He must have a coherent story.
He must have just thought of this like in the middle of the night. What if I did this?
What I'm looking forward to is, especially with Star Wars, because the whole thing about Star Wars is they haven't planned it out ahead of time. And I've mentioned before how I'm skeptical of how much they plan ahead these Avengers films. I think they have rough ideas, but I don't think they even write a one-page synopsis for most of the films in advance.
No, I think they plan their films out pretty well. Like,
I think they probably do. I don't know. We could talk about it, but I think I'm right in saying like I was about to say Zack Snyder. I don't know why. James Cameron, I think, has written out like screenplays. I almost feel like he's in. Isn't it true that he's actually in kind of simultaneous production of all 3 Avatar films? Which means I'm looking forward to the prospect of watching Avatar 4, knowing that Avatar 2 was written not only with Avatar 4 in mind, but was literally, you know, written and shot at the exact same time as Avatar 4 was being, because whatever it's going to be a grand story unfolding. So yeah, I'm hoping it won't be crap, basically.
Yeah, so am I. I'm also hoping it won't be crap.
It's almost like we like good films.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, that brings to the end this podcast, Avengers Age of Ultron. Obviously we did
Age of Ultron, an Avengers story.
Yeah, and we watched so much Marvel stuff in this Marpril. Yeah, that's it, Marpril. And all we gotta watch next is Avengers Infinity War. It'll probably be good. And there you go. That's credit to Marvel. They do produce like good films. I don't know what the lowest rated Marvel movie is. It's probably The Incredible Hulk, which obviously isn't actually canon anymore, considering the actor changed. But yeah, I guess all we have to look forward to now is this Infinity War thing, which the whole Marvel universe has been leading up to. 10 years.
And then it will end.
Since the first Iron Man. Yeah, you know what, I'm looking forward to the next Avengers movie after this one, because it'll have like a load of new characters in it, and that'll be fun, I think. And they won't have Captain America, because Chris Evans says he's stopping.
Based on my established trajectory of the films that we reviewed this week getting broadly worse in accordance with how many characters there were, I don't think that holds true for the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, I should say. It just happens to have held true for the 5 films.
I mean, they're going to get rid of some characters though in Avengers Infinity War. Like, probably Hulk dies and Captain America dies, and they get some new blood in for the next Avengers movie after that. which will be fun. I think new characters, because Avengers. That's the thing about Age of Ultron as well. It didn't have any new characters in it. I don't think, apart from Vision.
It had Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, but she was like a bad person. She wasn't actually an Avenger.
It had Vision.
Yeah, that's the thing about this Infinity War thing. You're getting like the Guardians of the Galaxy people meet Tony Stark. Like that's what I think people are excited for. Just like in the first Avengers movie, people were excited about Iron Man meeting Captain America and stuff like that. So there you go.
Yeah.
And you didn't have that in Ultron. You didn't have because there wasn't any new movies in between Avengers, the first Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron.
Yeah, so you're saying they didn't introduce any pre-established characters.
Yeah, exactly. So, for example, if you had like Black Panther, the first Black Panther movie coming out in 2014, and then Black Panther somehow is in this Age of Ultron, that would be interesting. But
just on that note, that's interesting because in Civil War, one of our criticisms was that Civil War would have been better, I think, if Spider-Man and Black Panther had been introduced already. Like, I think, because then you'd be excited to see them.
Yeah, exactly. Be like, oh, Black Panther fighting Captain America. Oh, this should be exciting. Like,
I agree. That's what they should do. They should always. I mean, obviously, we could talk about how DC.
DC went completely the wrong way on that one.
Yes. Yeah, like no one was like, oh, I want to see Aquaman meet Wonder Woman, because am I right in saying that Wonder Woman hadn't even come out when was Wonder Woman first?
No, it had come out. Yeah.
Okay, well,
she was in
I want to see
versus
Aquaman.
Superman though.
Yeah, I want to see Aquaman fight Cyborg. No one was thinking that, even though they've got an Aquaman film and a Cyborg film coming out.
God.
It's afterwards, so no one cares.
Well, you know what? We can criticize Marvel all we like.
They're better than DC.
But they're not DC. And that will do it. On that note, I'm going to say goodbye. Who have you been, Michael?
I've been Michael.
And I have been Luke. Thank you for listening to this very long Avengers Age of Ultron review. And yeah, we've been selecting and reflecting on these Avengers movies in preparation for Infinity War, which will come out the day this posts, hopefully.
I have one question actually, Luke.
Okay.
What film are we reviewing next week? Because I don't have my notes.
If you remember, Michael.
I wish I did.
Can you feel it?
I feel like it's Daddy's Home.
It's not Daddy's Home. That's the week after.
Okay, let me think.
It's a big one.
It can't be Star Wars.
It is. It's Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Are we having a break then?
No,
are we doing
because
Star
we're doing
Wars
it because the review's gonna come out on May the 4th, hopefully, which is of course Star Wars Day.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I made that joke.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, hold a minute, because are we doing Star Wars then Daddy's Home then another Star Wars after that?
No, because after that we're doing Deadpool, I think.
Okay.
So yeah.
I thought we were doing 2 Star Wars in a row.
No, we're not. Like there's a month gap between Force Awakens and Last Jedi.
Right, well, that's exciting. Okay, awesome. That's going to be huge.
Yeah,
wow.
It's huge. Wow, yeah. So many good movies to look forward to. And then Jurassic World after that.
Yeah. And I will be, I think that it will be up before we do the Star Wars review. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Anyway, good stuff.
Bye, Luke.
Bye, Michael.
Lots of love.
Lots of love. Bye.